Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi.
Just wondering how your team's performance through the first half has matched with the expectations that you had for it going into this year.
Well, I think that, again, you play the games, you obviously, you expect and you hope for the best results. But one thing I guess that, has been very nice to see is just, the way the players have taken to, what Bones and Arnie and the coaches, have been preaching. And at the end of the day, it's about the players performing, and it's about the players, trying to reach new levels. And we always talked about, in that room, it's like, what are we capable of? And, they're trying to prove to themselves and, to each and every person, their line mate or their seat mate, and, what they can achieve. So, we've accomplished nothing yet. They've accomplished nothing yet. They know that. And, but it's certainly, you put yourself in a good situation, if you play like that night after night.
Exceeded your...
Well, sure. Again, you expect to win every night, but that doesn't happen. Obviously you expect, your best every night, but that doesn't happen. But when you can find a way, to win more than you lose on a nightly basis, it is something that, they can take pride in.
On a personal level, at the end of last season, you took your share of heat, from me included. What's it like to see that team become this team?
It's obviously, again, it's the nature of this job that you are looked at with a very critical lens, and you should not get into this industry if you don't think that that's part of the equation. And again, it's your responsibility to take a broad look at things and to maybe take a step back and to analyze and talk. And it's not just me. You've got, I'm blessed with just an unbelievable staff, with respect to my assistant general managers. Again, coaching staff, we're on the same page. We speak the same language. Are easy to talk to. So you can lean on them too, for their experiences. Having a coach behind the bench that has stood behind there more than any other person in the National Hockey League is something that you tap into as well. So again, those are the conversations that we had at the end of the year. You always have hard exit meetings when you're not the last team standing. I think the best thing about winning a championship is that no one asks you what happened, why, So those are the things that you strive for, and again, we had to make some tough decisions this summer, and we systematically work through those through a process of making those decisions. And one thing sometimes does lead to another when you do make some decisions that kind of piggyback on top of each other.
And in a hockey market like this, you're always going to have armchair coaches and GMs. Can you tell me how that's changed when you're out getting a coffee?
Quite honestly, coffee actually is some of the funnest time for me here in Winnipeg, because you do get through the good times and the bad. You get to feel the passion of the people, and maybe I just go to the right coffee shops, but there's always been a lot of positive. And actually, as weird as it sounds, sometimes during the toughest times, those are the things that pick you up. When people, are there, say, hang in there, we're with you. And there's been a lot of that, over the course of time that we've been here. But it's certainly, again, when you get to see people talk about the game last night and see their passion and excitement, and that's fun.
You have one of those jobs that is never done. There's always somebody who's a pending free agent or what
Yep.
have you. At this stage, though, looking with the Scheifele and Hellebuck extensions, right after that almost, you get the Niederreiter extension. I'm wondering how your life has changed from a retention point or a long-term planning point heading into this season compared to the two that led up to it.
Yeah, so, it's interesting, like, the Nino conversations actually started right at the end of the year last year. Like, he wanted to, they wanted to jump out and get it done right away, and I needed to make sure that, I had a plan in place, or felt that, that, I could present, the right things, to whether it's to myself or ownership or, even the fans or the players in the room. And, so that's why things take time, and I know I frustrated a lot of people here, when I stood up here at the podium at the end of the season, and I said, I have to evaluate. We all have to evaluate. We have to take stock in where, things may or may not go and how we're going to handle it. And again, you might be frustrated with me here at the end of this podium today because I'm not going to make any bold proclamations about anything, coming up here because, this is the process in the National Hockey League. And wake up tomorrow and, I tell you what, I don't know if anyone sprinted down the stairs quicker, like when Scheif got the puck to the head there yesterday, because all I could think of was, what we had gone through, years past. And it's those moments in time that, these are people, and these guys are, they are like family, and we talk about it. And we talked about things like that with, when Bones, had to take a step back to deal with Judy, and, I stood in front of the guys in the dressing room. I said, we talk about being a family, but now we got a chance to walk it. We can talk the talk, but we get a chance to walk it now. And credit to obviously Arnie and Lau and Marty and Flats, for picking up where that. But it's a credit to, I think, the guys that they didn't let that bother them. They didn't let that step away. So the business side of things are obviously ongoing all the time, and you have to deal with them. But when you can shut yourself into that dressing room and play the game, that's what the guys all care about.
Almost on the family type of theme, coming out of those press conferences with Hellebuck and Scheifele, it really seemed like you opened up a sense of what your vision was to these guys in a really unique way, maybe a more forthcoming way, almost like sharing more information about the plan, I should say. Has that success that you had influenced how you move forward now in, you've got, a young star RFA, you've got a couple of UFAs, you have a trade deadline to plan for and all of that?
Yeah, so, again, the relationships that were built, through those negotiations are certainly something that I want to continue to build upon. But again, there's 23 guys in that room that, you're responsible, for and to. And again, this is their team way more than it's my team, and certainly, I think everyone, you like to try to please everyone, but that never happens. So you can find yourself spinning your wheels if you do try to please everyone. But in the same token, like these guys are special, and they've earned that opportunity to to have my trust, and again, this is their team. So you'll have some conversations at different points in time with them, but at the end of the day, the business side of it, everyone's business is still everyone's business.
Yeah, Kevin, just talking to some of the guys in the room over the course of the last 40 games or whatever, they've talked about how much the two signings on Thanksgiving had settled the team. Some guys who are maybe only got 2 years left know that they don't have to wait another two, or it's not going to be another 2 years until this team is good again and all that. Have you seen, was that, I don't want to say it was part of the plan because you didn't know when maybe that would happen, but do you feel like that really kind of settled this team down and paved kind of a road or direction?
For sure. Like, again, they're two foundational pieces, with respect to several foundation pieces within our organization. Thankfully, some of those foundation pieces are still locked up, but again, those two certainly were big pieces that I do think helped settle things down in those regards. And I'd be lying if I stood up here and said, okay, this is how I planned it all out, because, again, you have to methodically go through things, and, if it works and it works for both sides, then, things happen. But at the end of the day, I do think it does show that. And again, I think it even rings even truer now. Like, the two things that when I talked to both of those players, through that negotiation process is one, their very first and foremost thing was they wanted to win, and two, they wanted to win with this group. And they're the ones that are putting, walking the walk, so to speak, and that's what drives this team.
In your opinion, what is the difference this year then? Why has the success come the way that it has?
You know, it's hard to say, I think. Again, you know,
Is it Adam? Is it
well, I think it's a
leadership?
culmination of a lot of different things. I think that, you know, obviously, you know, your coach puts a plan in place, and, you know, the players, you know, have to execute and believe in that plan. You know, you have to, you know, you have to have guys performing at certain levels in this. It's the National Hockey League. You know, your best players have to be your best players, and that's been certainly been our case. But you need contributions from other areas too. You got to get a little lucky, I think, moving forward here. You know, if you know, to continue sustained success, you got to get lucky too. You got to, you know, find ways to, you know, and you can't find ways, but you got to hope that injuries don't, you know, come and rear their head, or different things like that. But you know, that's why this game is, I think it's very, it's humbling at times, because you can have everything going your way, but then something doesn't go right. You can have nothing going your way on a night and win a hockey game, you know. So it's there's a lot of nights where we've won the game analytically but lost on the scoreboard, and vice versa, you know. But I think it's just important that the players understand, you know, that, you know, winning just doesn't happen. There has to be that process. There has to be that buy-in to, you know, to a certain thing. And Adam's done a great job, but Josh Morrissey's done a great job. You know, Mark Scheifele's done a great job. Brendan Dillon's done a great job. Dylan DeMello. Those players are all leaders as well, you know, and I think everyone feels, you know, like this is, you know, their team. Their contributions matter.
Just last one for me. If you look at the depth on your team, maybe in years past, if a Kyle Connor goes down, there might be a sense of panic. It hasn't really seemed that way, and the depth has really kind of stepped up. How important has that become, maybe in the way that you kind of plan a team and build a team now?
So, you know, I talked about it actually, I guess, a little bit when we made the trade at the draft. We, you know, and acquired, you know, Gabe and Alex and Rasmus, and you know, we talked. I think that it gave our team a you know, different depth and dimension. And, you know, at that time, did I envision that, you know, okay, well, you know, we're going to be able to do this or do this? You don't know, because, you know, again, Gabe walks in and unfortunately gets hurt right away, and, you know, and then when Gabe comes back, KC gets hurt, you know. So, you know, those are things that, you know, you know, you want to have plans for, but I think that, you know, you can never plan it, and but it comes back to that next man mentality, and you know, like with Bones talking about it, is like, you know, we're not going to talk about excuses, you know, we're going to talk about solutions. You know, it says it right in the dressing room. We're here to find solutions, and that's really what, you know, the mentality that Bones has tried to instill, and you know, and it's easy to sit here and talk about it, but at the end of the day, those players have to go out and execute, and that's, you know, that's what they've done to this point, and that's what, you know, they're going to try and strive and continue to do moving forward.
You talked about the leadership of players beyond Adam, but with Mark Scheifele this year, you know, in the last couple of years, he took some heat from the fan base in a lot of ways, and, you know, there was uncertainty if he'd be a Jet for life. It looks like he will be, but what are your thoughts on the evolution he's taken this year as a player with his all-around game?
Well, you know, again, I've seen it before. There's no question about it, and obviously, you know, again, Mark cares so deeply about this team and you know, and this town, and he's shown it. You know, he stepped up in those regards. But you know, I saw how emotional he was when he got a chance to speak at the Howardchuk statue unveiling, and those are genuine things. And you know, he's a real caring person. I talked to him, you know, when we were naming, you know, Adam captain, and, you know, you can tell, you know, the emotions and different things, and the pride that, you know, that's there with respect to, you know, this team. And then obviously going through the, you know, the contract negotiations and that, like, it was, you know, you could tell, like, this is where he wanted to be, this is where he wanted to get it done. And but at the end of the day, these guys want to win, and you know, if you can point players and show them success, or show them a path to success, and get them to believe, you know, that's where you can achieve greater things. And I think that's where, you know, Mark's headspace is at right now, is that, you know, like, he's always loved this group, he's always loved this, you know, these players, you know, and you know, I think hopefully these guys can see that, you know, maybe there's a chance to do something good here.
And further to that, you know, beginning of the year, we talked about Coby Peretti getting a chance at center and wanting him to be there. He's been a bit at center, a bit at wing. But just what are your thoughts the halfway point of his sophomore season in the NHL?
Yeah, again, he's a player that we had high expectations for, certainly when we drafted him, and again, it's a very difficult league, for everybody to have continued success in, and so certainly we're excited that he's taking those strides to continue to grow his game, but he, like Scheifele in a lot of ways, is a student of the game. He's always trying to learn more. He's always trying to understand things more, and it's great to see players evolve, and you talk about how teams have success. And I remember, back talking to Paul Maurice when, Kyle Connor was going up and down, and we sent him down at the beginning of the year. And I said to Paul, I said, okay, Paul, we'll send him down. I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, if this team, is going to do anything, it's going to be because, a guy like Kyle Connor goes from here to here. And over the course of time. And so it's great to have a young player on your team that has a capacity to continue to grow, and it's great to see veteran players on their teams opening up their minds and opening up their thought processes so that they can grow. And so that's where, again, for us to be successful, at 40 games we're here, we need to go to here. So that's the mentality from, I think, for everybody.
Kevin, wanted to talk trade deadline, but actually go back to last year's trade deadline and the depth, which has become such a storyline. Maybe it wasn't realized at the time, but those two trades that you made for Nino and Vladislav, and obviously retaining those guys, bringing Vlad back.
Yeah.
Was that kind of, now in hindsight, the start of that depth building? And did you realize maybe at the time when you acquired those guys just what that could mean in the big picture?
So, it's interesting. Like, I obviously, Bones had Vladdy before, so certainly, knew that there was going to be a comfort level there with him. And Nino, I'd had actually lots of different conversations with his agent just over the course of time, about hockey, and he represented, Nikolai Ehlers as well, so we've always had, something to talk about. So it was kind of like a player that I kind of, knew, didn't really know, but heard lots of great things about him. But at the end of the day, and I think I talked about it at the time, it's all about fit, and you want to talk about this trade deadline, if we're going to do anything or not, one, you have to be in a position to, to do things, who knows what our cap space will be at that point in time, through injuries or different things like that. And you have to evaluate everything. But at the end of the day, it's all about fit. Like if there's not a fit, you shouldn't do something, And so we felt there was a good fit last year with those guys, and more than just being depth pieces, we felt they could contribute, and so that's why those things worked out real well. And it turns out they're even better people on top of it, and the fit continues on.
Looking ahead to this trade deadline, I know it's still a couple months away. As you say, there's still a lot of variables. But the reality is you guys are the number one team in the NHL as you stand here today and speak to us. Does that change your approach at all versus if you were the 32nd ranked team?
Well, certainly if you're 32nd, I think your mindset's a little bit different. If you're 16 or 17 or 18 or 19, your mindset is maybe a little bit different. But, again, those are the conversations that are slowly starting to happen here now. We have pro scouting and amateur scouting meetings, coming up next week where, you go and, obviously put everything in order as far as the first half of the season from an evaluation standpoint and those kind of things, and again you'll start having different conversations, but there's very real factors, and cap space is a factor, there's performance bonus factors, there's different things like that the script is not even written yet, so it's all I can say is, we'll be as prepared as we always are to make the proper decisions.
You talk about those factors. I remember a while ago when you had all your UFAs, Scheifele, Hellebuyck, Nino, you said, we may want all those guys back. The reality is we may not be able to bring them all back, cap, reasons. You've signed Mark, you've signed Connor, you've signed Nino. Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon, you mentioned them both
Yeah.
as leaders, and you're the number one defensive team in the league. I guess, where are things potentially at with them? Are you content to just park that for now, or?
No, I can't say that for sure. I have had, either myself or Larry Simmons has had conversations with, each of their respective agents, those are conversations that we're going to continue. I'm not telling you there's negotiations ongoing or anything like that. It's just, again, when you're in our situation here, you try to be, and again, as Murat said, you try to be as transparent as possible, given the different parameters, but, sometimes you can only be transparent so far, and they're big parts of our team. There's no question about that. We're not having the success that we're having here without those guys. So the fact that they're both not signed shouldn't diminish the willingness to want to get them signed.
And just last one for me, but you've been here the whole time. You know what this team means to this community, and you saw what this community was like in 2017-18 when you guys, were in the mix for the President's Trophy and obviously made it to the Final Four. How much has that experience, I guess, driven the desire to try and replicate that? And I guess, is there excitement building with yourself, with the organization, that perhaps this year could be a special year like that?
Again, I think, I don't know that this year in my approach is any different than any other year, because again, there's different circumstances all the time that are in front of you here, but certainly, you enjoy, like there's a fan in you as well, that obviously you like to see other people enjoying themselves and enjoying the success. It's the National Hockey League. It's it's a results oriented business for sure. But again, all I can do is what I've always said is I pledge to do my best to try to put this team in the best position to try and win, and that's, I've been so fortunate that ownership has always allowed me to do that. There's never been a situation where, Mark has said, Chevy, I don't know about doing that, regardless of other factors or anything like that, like the determination to want to try to win starts, with a guy like Mark Chippen.
Kevin, how would you describe what you saw with your prospects at the World Junior?
Obviously very happy for Rutger to, obviously, I was very proud of him, and reached out to him there when he was named captain, obviously of the U.S. team. That's, a very, very special thing. But it was even more special for him, I think, because of what he had to go through going into that. And I wasn't at the game, but Jimmy Roy was, and I talked to Jimmy within minutes of him getting hurt. And, I know that was something that, was hurting probably more than the ribs, I think, for Rutger at the time, was, potentially not having that opportunity to play for gold and playing for the World Juniors. So it's gratifying, not gratifying, I guess that's not mine. It's exciting, and I'm proud, that he's part of our organization, and that, again, he led that team to a World Junior Championship. It was awesome to see, Solomonson being healthy this year, because last year that's what kept him out of the tournament. To see how he's grown from training camp to now was great. I think his development path is served very well this year with respect to how he's being utilized over in Europe and with his team, and obviously the role that he played in the World Juniors was a good one, and again, Wagner's the same thing. Like he was a veteran at that tournament. He's played there before. Very responsible player. That's the role that they asked him to play. In that, and he excelled. So it was nice to be able to see them, live. I think it's unfortunate for a player like Colby Barlow that he had his injury at that time, but that's the game. And actually, I just spoke with actually Ville Heinola, and he's been fully cleared to start playing. We're going to assign him to Moose to start playing. And again, it's a tough conversation to have. It's exciting. I said, hey, Billy, it's exciting you're getting a chance to play here now, but obviously, that's he was dealt a tough, blow at the beginning of the season, as was Rutger, as, was Coby. But that's part of this game. And again, it's about moving forward. And, again, it's exciting, I think, from an organization standpoint to have a young player like Villy, back, because we all know he had a great training camp, and that just adds, more depth to our organization.
Just one more quick one about the deadline. I mean, how do you, as a manager, when you're in this position, how do you weigh rewarding your players who've gotten you here versus trusting the players who got you here in terms of how big a swing or swings you want to take?
Well, again, I think, you are limited by the salary cap. So, people, can talk about the type of swing you want to take or whatever, but I think, the swing that, if you're taking one you want to do is something that fits, because I think, again, this isn't, there's a lot, to say about chemistry, and again, this group has really good chemistry. So you want to add, if you're going to add, you want to add people that add to that chemistry.
I guess I'd ask it this way. When you've got a team that is showing what this team is showing, I would think that maybe your job is to look and say, okay, where would we potentially be vulnerable in the playoffs, and try and close off any of those vulnerabilities. So I guess I'm wondering where your thought process is on how fully complete this team is, or are there things you feel you need to look at to address?
So I really haven't had a chance to address a lineup with Velarde and Kyle Connor in it. Obviously, you got a guy like Kyle Connor who's a foundational piece here that, it's, again, exciting to see him out there skating and how hard he's pushing, to come back. That's all part of it. I think that, again, will you ever truly have everybody back in your lineup? I don't know, that's the nature of the game. But I think that's what wakes you up every morning or keeps you awake at night is those kind of things, what are we going to be like today? How are we going to play tonight? What do I have to address tomorrow? And it drives you, till that trade deadline. Things evolve every single day. So, anybody who makes bold proclamations at 40 games, hasn't really, felt the ups and downs and the roller coaster, of a NHL season. And there's going to be some dog days here. There's no question about it. It's all part of that whole process. But again, when we were going through, we lost 3 games in a row. I remember talking to Bones and his message to the guys. He might have said it in the media. I don't know. It's like every team loses 3 games in a row. It's how you handle it, and it's how you come out of it. And so that's. Again, so much of an NHL season, is process, and so much of it is preparation, and a great amount of it, is execution, and that's what those players, need to continue to do. We'll have conversations. We'll seek opinions. We'll talk. We'll try and look. You'll see what's available. You just hope that you're in that situation that it matters.
You brought up Rick. Going back to last season, clearly at some point, I think he said as much, at least in the way they played, the team fell off. They fell off the same page, the two of them together. And clearly at the end of the year, it ended in a very dramatic fashion, to the point that I think people on the outside were wondering if Rick and the players could get back on the same page. You had made it seem very clear at the time, at the end of the season, that you were confident that they could get back on the same page. I'm wondering why that was, and what you've seen from him since that seems to have got him back on the same page with this team, to the point that he seems as locked in with his players as any coach in the league.
One thing Bones is authentic. Like, he hasn't changed from the person that sat here beside me when we announced him. He hasn't changed. He's evolved. I think that, you don't stay in this game for as long as, he has and not evolve. But one thing, again, I think with all successful coaches, or anyone successful in any profession in life, is, you don't compromise, what you believe and how you believe to get things done. And, at the end of last season, there's lots of things that people kind of want to tend to gloss over. And obviously, the emotions are so high because of how you prepare and how you emotionally invest in this whole entire season. These players don't just invest in 10, 15, 20 games. This is a year in their career. And, they invest so much. This is a year in Bones' career, in everyone's career. It's you play to try to win. And when that's done, when you can't anymore, that's emotional, and that's what those players felt. But that's the same emotion that I felt when we sat there and started talking, or going through the contract negotiations with Scheif and Helly. Is that this is their life, this is their livelihood. They're going to invest, and they just want to know that everyone around them is invested as well. And I think that's the message that this whole entire organization tries to exude to every single fan, every single person, is like, we're invested. These guys are invested. They bought in. They're buying into Winnipeg, and you know what? Come along and join us for the ride, because, they want to win for them. And that's what this is, all about. So I was not angry that there was lots of emotion at the end of last season. Scheif wasn't going to be able to come back in the next series. Josh wasn't going to be able to come back in the next series. We might have got Nikolai Ehlers as he, got healthier and stuff like that. Those were real things, and those are things that you have to overcome. So that contributes to the emotion, as well. Is that the chance to continue on was not going to be there anymore. But now we have a chance to continue and try and drive forward, and I think that's what drives these guys.
You talked about enjoying the success as a fan, but I mean, from a GM's point of view, I mean, you're seeing a Canadian team in a small market at the top of the standings. I mean, how much does that maybe add a bit more personal pride to what's developing?
Again, I'm a prairie boy. I grew up, north of Saskatoon, a little town called Blaine Lake, 550 people. And, again, I played my junior hockey in Brandon. I've spent the most time in my life has been, here in Winnipeg. And, there's a sense of pride. When you come from the prairies and there's always that feeling that you need to punch above your weight, and I'm excited for these guys because they're the ones that execute. Like, at the end of the day, Bones can put a plan in place. I can get fortunate and sign guys or trade for guys, or guys might be there. But at the end of the day, it's these players playing for those fans, and that's really what it's all about. So again, you're excited, but there's probably still more things that keep me up at night than allow me to wake up with restful sleep. So but that's the nature of the job.
Say where this stretch fits in your highlights of your time here with this club.
Again, I think one of my real proud moments was standing up here and announcing, Adam Lowry as captain, because I do think that it is allowed. It's the evolution, I think, of our group. The player that we drafted first that year, just signed a long extension. The player that we drafted second, that year, just became captain. A player that we, drafted, several years later, was in the Norris Trophy, conversation the year before. Like, so those are things that are, you take pride, because our organization, it's a small one, as far as our infrastructure, our staffs, we're a tight-knit group. But, again, as much as the players are a family, our hockey operations is a family as well. Like our business operations is a family. So, there's lots of those things that, again, you never want to disappoint a family member, and that's what, I think we all have that kind of feeling for each other. Yeah.
You mentioned, you guys are here after 40 games. You're hoping to get to here. If you do that, you will probably be the best Winnipeg Jets team that this city has seen. What do you feel the role of that is in filling this building back up?
Again, I don't profess to understand, a lot of things on the business side of it. I'm fortunate that, again, I've been given the resources and given the mandate to do whatever you can to try to win. And I know that, again, everyone's, trying hard to, do everything they possibly can to continue the success, of this franchise, moving forward. But again, I'll do what I can, and these players are going to continue to do what they can. And, we're here to hopefully entertain, we're at game 40, as far as, hopefully at game 41, I'm still, excited, as much as you are here today, and 42 and 62 and 72 and, 82, but you still can't take your eye off the prize here. We got to make the playoffs. In order to play for the Stanley Cup, you got to make the playoffs. You have to play a certain way on a nightly basis to do that. As hard as it is, through the dog days, where you might say, we need an easy one today, or the travel's too much, or whatever. You have to find a way to grind through it. And if this group continues to grind, I think that, again, there's enough talent here. There's enough things. There's a strong belief. But again, you have to continue to play the right way.